Hi, everybody.
Hi, Joette.
Oh my, that was a big sigh. Did you have a hard day?
Frustrated.
Ah, sorry. If you want to be frustrated, I saw Mr. Gumpert at the pool today. And you know, that's the family that is supposedly selling their land to Powell Development. And he said his tax bill went from $7,500 to $200,000,
Whoa.
based apparently on what they think the selling price is going to be. But that doesn't seem very fair to him.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I give up on all this stuff. It's getting very frustrating.
It is.
This is too loud.
And speaking of, I was going to meet a friend for coffee yesterday, and I went to BlackRock, and they had a sign on the door, sorry, our lobby's closed because we're short-staffed. So we went to Starbucks in the shopping center, and they said, sorry, we're closed because we're short-staffed.
Yeah.
So we ended up going to Wild Roots, which is probably where we should have gone in the first place. And they were open and pretty busy.
Yeah, I don't know where everybody is and what they're doing that they're not working.
Yeah, I wish there was better research on that. If it's just a lot of retired people that decided to retire early.
Yeah.
Or, you know,
It's got to be a mystery because it can't be that the unemployment insurance and all that, because that stopped long ago.
yeah, I know. So it's very strange.
Yeah.
Kathy, Ashley should have a report on the contest. They've chosen 2 winners, and 1 adult and 1 child, so.
Okay, that's good.
I'm gonna
And
mute.
we'll just give it another couple minutes here before we get the meeting started. maybe somebody else will join us. I hope so. I did a lot of outreach.
Well, and I did send a reminder too, but I don't know if it's just Zoom fatigue that, you know, people are so tired of being on meetings that they can't bear another one, or,
Yeah, one guy at least said he didn't do Zoom. And I know that Comcast had a big internet outage today. So
Oh,
there
they
could be some people who can't even get on. And I got my northern lights going in the background here because we're having a solar storm that's affecting connectivity. The last meeting I was on for 2 hours, there were people who were failing. I mean, we'd have one person's internet fail and then another person's internet fail and another person's. It was a bit chaotic. So welcome, Chantal and Todd. I will be recording this when we start here in just a minute. I put
Thank
notes
you.
on my screen saying, do this, record. Oh, it says it's already recording, so we're good.
Well, thank you for inviting us, for letting us come into your meeting tonight, and for taking up an hour with us. We really appreciate it.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to what you have to say. I know you talked to us about buses a bit ago, and so we're hoping we're going to hear good news from both of you about what's going on in your worlds.
Yes.
Joette,
Yes.
are you taking notes tonight, or am I?
I will take notes, yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
And we are anticipating the architects to also join us. So we should have 1 or 2 or 3 architects join in as well.
Okay,
Okay.
I must have gotten you confused with the person who's going to tell us about bus routes. So you're with the library, Chantal, and Todd.
I'm the library.
Library?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
When I saw Todd's logo on his sweater, I thought, oh, well, Chantal must be the person who wanted to do the bus route. So
Oh.
getting things confused and mixed up.
No, we're both the library.
Yeah.
Well, we will have a bus stop at the library, so we can talk about that.
All right. Looks like I might have some more people to admit here. Go on. Well, there, that's a much better turnout. Welcome, everybody. I'm Kathy Roach, and I am sort of the default chair of Fauna. I got it because nobody else wanted it, but I just want to say we're still recruiting a couple of board members. So if after this wonderful meeting, somebody's inspired, wants to join our board, you can get in contact with me at boydacres.com. We have 2 people from the library here ready to tell us about what's going on and what they want to hear from us about. And if I want to follow the city council, they want to encourage us to increase diversity. So I will say, bienvenidos amigos. Here's Rachel is going to tell us about bus service after the folks from the library talk to us. So I think we've probably got about everybody we're going to have here. And I'll keep admitting people as we go along. So Chantal, do you want to start us off then? You can introduce yourself. You could probably do a better introduction than I could. So
Sure. Yes. Thank you so much for letting us join your meeting. My name is Chantal Strobel, and I'm with the Deschutes Public Library. I'm the Communications and Development Manager. And We also tonight have the library director here with us, Todd Dunkelberg. And then we have, let's see, three architects. And I'm going to let Ruth, Matt, and Scott introduce themselves.
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Hello, I'm Scott Steele with Steele Associates Architects here in Bend. And we are partnered with the Miller Hull Partnership and these two individuals right here.
Thank you. Ruth Baleko, I'm one of the partners with the Miller Hall Partnership from Seattle. And we are teamed with Scott and his firm for all of the bond related projects, the new construction and the renovations. And thank you for giving us some time tonight on your agenda. Matt, go ahead.
Sure. Matt Elboris, I'm with Miller Hull and the project manager overseeing all the projects as well for DPL. Nice to meet you all.
Yeah, Greg.
And then we have Greg Holcomb.
Yeah, so I'm Greg Holcomb. I'm with Deschutes Mixes, and we are the owner's representative for Deschutes Public Library. Thank you.
So if it's okay, Kathy, I think we'll hand it over to Ruth and Matt and Scott to tell you a little bit more about the buildings that we're creating, and especially though the central library, because that's the one that will impact you all the most in really positive ways. And then we're here also to answer any questions that you have related to the project and its timeline, et cetera. Okay.
Yeah, and just before we get started, I know that we are part of your regular meeting, and so I want to be respectful of how much time on your agenda you would like us to use, so we don't go over.
You have about an hour here. We'll check in with Ashley and Joette on our pumpkin carving contest when the library's done, and then we'll move over into the bus service. So I think that will work.
Okay, and we won't need nearly that long to present. We'll give kind of a short, summary, but really leave the whatever amount of time we have for conversation so that we can really learn from you about the things that are exciting to you, the things you're concerned about, the things you want us to be thinking about and incorporating. So think of this as kind of the beginning of a dialogue as we go forward. We're really at the infancy here of these projects. And so it's really a great time to start gathering input, knowing that we can keep having that conversation as the building and the site work, continues to evolve. Matt, should I share my screen? Because I have the present. Does that work? Okay. And the weather has calmed down here, so I think we're gonna be okay. As opposed to earlier today, which was a little dicey. Okay, hang on just a second. I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me. Oh, the host has disabled participant sharing. Are you able to enable that?
Do you know where I go to do that?
Let's see. Participant.
That doesn't seem to be it. I have reactions. I have pause, stop recording. I got chat. I got security. I got stop video. Is it under view?
You might be able to do it if you click on the dots on Ruth's screen, little blue and white.
Yeah.
Oh,
Say that once more.
Oh, if you go to Ruth's box and see the little blue square with the white dots in it.
Hang on a second. I managed to do something bad here.
we all have this happen.
I want full screen again. Okay, now I go to Ruth Square and I see the three dots.
Yeah.
And I can do make her the host.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It says I have low system resources and that may affect auto quality, or at least somebody's got that issue. I think I'm going to turn off my picture while you're speaking to reduce system resources. And if anyone else wants to do that, that would be fine also.
Okay, great. It's still,
yeah.
It is still saying host.
It asked me a question, but I had another task box up in
Here we
front of
go.
it, so I had to close that one out.
Here we go. I think we have it. View, hang on. Okay, do we see a big screen shot image,
Yeah.
Ariel? Okay, well, we wanted to kind of first start, just by taking a moment to recognize what a kind of once in a lifetime opportunity this is for the Deschutes Public Library and really residents of the entire county. These types of initiatives at this scale don't come along very often. And so we really need to embrace that opportunity and be designing for people who are going to come after us, right? And anticipating how this can really serve a broader, bigger audience and do things we can't even anticipate today. And that's a really exciting opportunity. As you know, we're going to talk mostly about Central today, but the branches all across the county will see impact. New buildings in Redmond and Central in your neighborhood, but renovations in Sisters, Downtown Bend, East Bend, Sun River, and Lapine. And I think, we think about libraries as so much more than books today. And it's really exciting to think about how we can bring people in and get them excited about so many different things and have families exploring things together or individually. And I think we all recognize that many of us grew to love the library and grow that lifelong connection because of a childhood relationship that got made. And that's absolutely still the case. And now libraries offer even more, those digital natives and emerging kind of technophiles. There are, access to equipment and computers and software for them to make and do things that, I'm sure are well beyond my technical capabilities. And the same thing with, thinking about classes or presentations, instruction. Technology also allows the library to bring information and resources from afar into the library. And it also allows the library to record and stream and project and send things out. So the library is so much bigger than its four walls. And I think we're seeing, especially in Deschutes County, where you have so many people that are creative, that are passionate about hands-on pursuits and are curious. And I think that that we need to honor that with some of the creative spaces that we have in these buildings. So can you come in and, learn how to use a new piece of equipment? Can you bring your quilting bag and sit down and quilt for a while? Is there equipment here that you might not purchase at home, but would be great to have periodic access to? How can this be your home base for those creative pursuits? And I think it's our job as architects to bring all of these diverse experiences gracefully under one roof, so that all of these things can coexist, really seamlessly and peacefully together. And I think while libraries are, dynamic and colorful and energetic, they are at the same time still really can be those places for quiet reflection, focused study, sitting down for a while with that great view and a good book. And I think one of the things we've been talking a lot about as a group is how because we are entrusted with public funds here, we need to really keep wearing our stewardship hat. And that stewardship hat means we are making absolutely smart use of resources like, what materials we bring in, the land we're on, the resources we use, the materials that we bring in to create a healthy environment, all of the above, so that we're definitely setting the library system up for smart use of resources of all kinds. So I think we want to focus on Central, after that kind of intro, because it's, obviously kind of right where your insight and expertise can help us. Where it is, and I think these 3 locations in downtown Bend are really important. They're going to serve all the different areas of Bend really differently, and different neighborhoods. But the Central Library is definitely that kind of destination that is tuned to serve everyone in the county. We spent a lot of time, even before we were selected this summer, really looking at that site that was chosen. And that's the area shown in green here on the screen. I'm going to try to annotate, right here. And, the first thing as architects we do before we even get close to putting pencil to paper is, traveling to the site, walking the site, studying it, understanding what it has to offer and what it wants. And here, we've got great access to existing vehicular transportation. We have some new roads that are going to go in. You see that new roundabout that's coming at Roble, the Britta and Jameson extensions. We have proximity to commercial development and the current residential environment, but also more coming. And then we have these great views out to the north and west. There's a bike trail that will be coming in parallel to Highway 20. And, how can we really use all of these conditions in addition to the weather and sun patterns so that we're really, being smart with some of our very early fundamental decisions. Oops, let's see. So this here, I'm going to explain this. We're going to layer on some information incrementally so we can see it step by step. But now I've zoomed into that parcel. The Britta extension is kind of on the left of the drawing. Roble Lane is here at the top, joining up with that new roundabout. Highway 20 is on your right, and the Jameson extension is at the bottom of your screen. And I think with all of kind of all the different explorations the team has done, understanding the site and where this area of the city is kind of developing, we started thinking about how if we located the parking to the north, visible and close to where access from the street might come in, what it allows us to do is really nestle the building into some of that topography and create more areas of landscape around the building, so that we're really trying to create a feeling of still having some of that natural landscape around for both kind of quality of experience and different public experience. And so what you're seeing here is if you came in by vehicle, you would come in off of Britta where that magenta arrow is. And there's a drop-off area signified right here in front of the building, kind of where that magenta dot is. That bike trail that is going in is shown on the right with that dotted magenta line, giving great access to covered bike parking at the library. We have organized it so there's a really generous public plaza facing like right kind of in front of the building. So as you approach, you're going to see whatever activities are taking place. Maybe you'll sit down and have a conversation with a friend. Maybe there'll be some events happening. It's really kind of a versatile outdoor space. And the front door is undercover, really visible from that drop off that we talked about. And then from a library user standpoint, we are thinking about how the building can also offer 24-hour service to users. And by that, I mean, if it's after hours, I've gotten off of work, can I come drop off a book either by walking up to the front door or dropping it off here in this drive-up lane that we have on the south. And that drive-up lane during the day will also offer a service window for patrons. So we're really thinking about how we can increase all the different ways to provide service for users. So what I've done here is we've zoomed in to that site plan that we showed you. And now we're really looking at just what kind of functions are on that first floor. So again, you're seeing the entry kind of right here. Here's that drop-off lane toward the top of your screen, the covered outdoor space. And then that first floor is really energetic, changeable display, lots of different collection discovery for kind of for everyone. It's also where the large event space will be, so that it's really conducive to spilling outside or being available in the evening. Going one floor up, we have the children's area, some of the creative space, We also have access to a roof terrace because the areas shown in green are actually the roof of that first floor that we showed you. And then the third floor starts to provide a little bit more quieter of an environment. So the hustle and bustle of the first two floors, the third floor is where a lot of the adult collection will be, and study and meeting rooms. And I'll show you just a couple of views here, and then I'll pause for discussion. This is just a very early conceptual sketch of if you were on 20 driving north toward the new roundabout, and you can see that first floor of the building is kind of tucked into that hillside we have. And then the upper floors of the building, we've rotated a little bit to create that entry porch, that covered outdoor area we talked about, and really create a welcoming front door. Here you can see from that roundabout, that covered outdoor area I talked about, and how the library really addresses that new intersection, really kind of starts to express what's going on and the excitement and the innovation. And you can see kind of in the background of the image, there's that terrace that we talked about, which is on the roof of that first floor. And then here, imagine you've gotten out of your car, you're walking toward the front door, which is undercover, under that big kind of porch feature. The event area is on your right. You can see in and kind of see what's going on as you approach. And then we've got 2 floors of kind of library collection and seating and activity spaces visible overhead. And so I think that's probably a good place to pause. That's kind of where we are right now with the central design work. You can see we're still in kind of what we call a fat pen sketch mode. We still have diagrams, and we're moving kind of ahead, exploring how these things become more refined and specific. So it's a great time to get your feedback. And I'll kind of pause right now and open up. I don't know if Todd or Chantal want to add anything that I forgot, or if we just want to kind of open up for questions.
The only thing I will add is we are also, which we mentioned, have videos of each of the projects we're doing and chances for people to give feedback. And I'll just put the link to that in the chat.
Yeah, thank you. And should I leave the slides up so that we can flip back to things, or I can also stop sharing so that we can see each other better? Does anyone have a preference? I'll ask the meeting chair.
Are you still gonna retain the meeting chair, Ruth? Or you want me to take back control, or?
I think you could for now, and I could stop sharing, and then we could see each other a little better for conversation. I can always go back to sharing.
Okay, somewhere just asked me that question and now I can't find it again.
You have a question of what are you thinking for meeting space capacity? And that's an exciting one. So we have some fun answers for that one.
Yeah, and thank you for using the chat. We forgot to mention that. Chantal, you've been kind of the front line here with event space. Do you want us to give more specifics, or do you want to talk?
I'm happy to start and then you fill in.
Okay.
So what we have found over the last 20 years of doing programs for all of Deschutes County is that people really love the library programs. And that's good news. We have not had enough meeting room space for the library programs, as well as meeting room space for the general public to come in and to have a meeting with friends, with business associates, etc. So with this new building, we have made a very strong commitment to make sure that we are able to have up to 150 people in our meeting room space. So that would be one room would hold 150 people, and we're going to double it with a meeting room right next to it for 150 people. The exciting part about this is that we can combine those rooms for a total of 300 people meeting for like a larger event, but we can also keep those rooms flexible and make them smaller for a smaller type event or meeting. And that's that event space that you saw on the first floor to the right of the entrance. Something exciting too that will be associated with this meeting space is outdoor space, that when our weather is beautiful and sunny and not too hot, we can open the doors and access even more space to hold an event or a larger meeting. So we could have the capacity to have up to maybe 450 people or so with that outdoor indoor space. And again, we can control the size by keeping these meeting rooms flexible, which was a major priority for us.
Mhm. There's a lot of great questions in the chat. I think the first one about parking, there's a code requirement for how much parking we need to provide, and we are going to do everything we can to provide really generous landscaping throughout the parking lot. So it really starts to feel less like a parking lot at a Costco and have a very different landscape feel, both when you're in the parking lot getting out of your car, but also from the building when you look out on it. That's really important too. And so I think we definitely heard loud and clear from the public, even before we came along, that filling the site with parking and the appearance of parking was not acceptable. So that's very front of mind for our team. And then there were questions about materiality. I think someone asked about wood. We have not at all started talking about what materials there are on the building. So this is a great time if people have thoughts or recommendations, and especially engineered wood, which, you know, is a great, in some cases, a very appropriate structural option. And we're still exploring that. Let's talk a little bit about solar, because we actually spent some time in our meeting this morning talking about that. Absolutely, we're thinking about solar. And we have part of the project budget that we're actually required by the state of Oregon to devote to renewables, which is pretty exciting. So it helps make it happen. Let's see. Yes, covered parking with solar panels. There's a lot of ways we can integrate it, you know, either into the landscape, like you were suggesting, or you know, onto the building. And I think we'll continue exploring what the best way to do that is. Let's see.
There's a comment about drought resistant landscaping.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. The landscape architects on our team have done a lot of work in the high desert where Bend is. And so they're very familiar with the plant materials that will survive and thrive and absolutely be, you know, what the site wants to be here, and what flourishes here. So that is definitely part of the conversation so far, and also on those roof terraces.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely looking at using only native landscaping that will require some irrigation initially, but the hope is that kind of going forward, it would be able to sustain itself. And we're doing the same thing with the green roofs on the upper level of the first level, making sure that those plant materials are also native to ensure their success. But those will likely need to have some irrigation.
Yeah, one thing we did talk about while we're on the conversation of landscaping is, because of your proximity to the site, you know, you may be walking here, you know, using some of the outdoor amenities or spaces. You know, are there things that would be, you know, useful or enjoyable for you as a neighborhood, because you can take advantage in a different way?
Did it the wrong way. This is Kathy. Having meeting space, it would be valuable to us. We currently, if we meet in person post-COVID, if there's ever really a post-COVID, we've been meeting at the Elks Club, and it would be nice, to me, it would be nice to have a more neutral and welcoming facility that where, well, we've been challenged by the city council to improve diversity in all the neighborhood associations across the city. And so I think that having a more welcoming atmosphere at a place like the library would be valuable to us. for
That's
that.
great.
I
And
think you're
Kathy,
way-
that's a, oh, sorry, we mentioned 2 of the larger meeting rooms, and there will also be many more meeting rooms in the building as well. But definitely,
Smaller.
yeah, but it depends on the site. With the size of your association, we could easily accommodate you.
Well, you see how many people we got to attend this meeting. We often
Well-
only get about that many people attending any meeting. But
well-
and we try to hold our annual meeting where we provide food. We get a big turnout for that, but we do that outside at at one of the parks. So I think you're way optimistic about your landscaping. If you look at the density of the trees and stuff on the site that you have now, I mean, that's what grows in Central Oregon. It's not dense. It's not like Portland. You know, it's just way wide open and it's all very flammable. And so I really encourage you to work on the fire resistance of your building and make sure that it's not going to contribute to wildfire, you know, in any way, shape or form. And that if there's a wildfire around you, it's not going to burn down. Use all of your, there's an organization and I can't think of it, fire safe kind of building materials and et cetera. We have, with all the stores over there, we have such an urban heat island already. And so anything that can reduce the urban heat island effect is very important. I presume you're going to have air conditioning throughout. Back in the day, it used to be that Bend didn't need air conditioning. People could just open windows, but these days the smoke during the summertime has been so bad for the last couple of summers that air conditioning is pretty much a necessity just for air filtering capability.
Yeah, to address a few.
Because on the plus side, you're right next to a fire station. Yeah, you're right next to a fire station, but you know, that's you're gonna if the library caught on fire, it would immediately be a 3 or 4 alarm fire. You're gonna need people from all across the city, but nearly all the fires in Bend end up being wildland fires plus structure fires. The minute a structure fire catches on fire, you have to bring in the wildland component as well.
Yeah.
So it's a very different environment than what you have in Portland.
Oh,
Just
absolutely.
to,
Yes,
if I can
Scott.
address a few of those, that's why we're partnered. Those are all great points. And I was born and raised here, done 1,200 buildings. So we fully understand the wildfire risk. Your comments about the parking lot landscape, they're right on. That is a conceptual graphic. So the density of those plants is up in the air. We know the native plants, rabbit brush, Idaho fescue, all those things. And it will be a very native landscape. We're very sensitive to fire. And the building itself will be fire sprinklered, as well as the materials will be very fire resistant. And the type of construction is a very fire resistant construction type. In addition to that, all that nasty smoke we're getting more often, we'll have a HVAC system that deals with that to help filter the air as well as possible. The building will be air conditioned and will be highly sustainable. On another chat note, the bike lane that will be coming through there, the new one, will be connected east-west across the highway at the new Roble roundabout. There'll be crosswalks designed in there with ODOT, in conjunction with the city and our team, to make sure there's safe passage back and forth across the highway.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, comments about outdoor space. We didn't even talk about it, but we are planning, we're going to try to integrate an outdoor amphitheater because we do have that little rise. So thank you for that. And let's see, the Ward Road roundabout. Scott, do you know that one? They're referencing that as a good example.
I'm sorry, do you say the Ward
Road? Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I mean, they're always improving the roundabouts. The geometry and diameter of the roundabouts varies depending on how the roads come into them. So not positive, but our civil engineer is working hand in hand with ODOT to make sure that our site design is in keeping and works perfectly with the new roundabout and all the bike and pedestrian crossings, which are still in progress design-wise.
Yeah, the good thing is this project is putting them in. So we have, you know, we have a straight, you know, communication line to how that's coming together. And if there are features, you know, that are really important to this project, we have kind of a direct pipeline to direct that feedback. What else? Let's see. What other questions do people have that we didn't think to cover, or things you think we really need to be thinking about that you would enjoy having nearby?
Joanne had posted something. And then I want to for sure do Ashley or Tom, our other two board members, have anything that they want to say here?
Well, if you don't mind, there's so much construction on between Roble Road out that way and where Juniper Ridge comes in and where they're going to extend the highway. And I think you're going to be cutting off people from the thing is designed. It's going to be very hard for people in Boyd Acres to cross Highway 97, then come across and possibly get across 20, whether you're in a car, bicycle, or skateboard. So I think all that area, you're going to have to work together with these folks. I mean, you've got theoretically, whether it's Costco or Fred Meyer, whoever, they want to make where Hunnell Road is, they want to turn that into some housing. So the way that I've seen the state draw the line for the new Highway 97 is worse than spaghetti on a, throw it on a, it's terrible. So I really, you're adding an element that is great, but what I've heard, not so many people worried about what's in the library, but how to get to the library. And I think that's really going to be something you guys are going to have to think about and work with. Now it's going to be state and county and city developers. I don't envy your task, but that's really, I'd hate to see us limit that where people don't feel comfortable coming from particularly the part of Boyd Acres that is the other side of the tracks, if you will. We have some that are right next to you, but the bigger portion of Boyd Acres is to the east. And if they're not feeling comfortable crossing all that 97 and 20 and stuff, they won't use it. I mean, it's just that simple. They found that out with the folks going in at that Roble Road Mall and things when they were kind of cut off. You can't, what is it, Nels Anderson Road, you can't drive down it because everybody parks there and things. So as much as people don't like parking in Bend, they think, I don't see how you're going to get the majority of people there without them. I don't see them coming by public transportation right now.
Yeah.
Well,
So I
Thomas,
just, be aware of that. It's going to be a bottleneck.
Yeah, I know
those are great points. And I will say that we have a traffic engineer on the team. We do a lot of projects in Bend, of course, in Central Oregon. Every project requires a traffic study. Anytime you're adjacent to the highway, it requires the coordination and agreement with ODOT. So all those things are happening, and we know it's a big project and it's going to take a while. The good thing about the duration of construction is it's going to give time for some of those other roads, improvements, the roundabout to get completed. All of those will be taking into consideration the increased traffic capacity from the adjacent developments. And I guess what I'm saying is things are going to get better over time as that infrastructure is placed. And there's always going to be a strong focus on safety, pedestrian routes, bike routes, as well as we're considering transit stops to make it easier for those folks that don't have automobiles or maybe don't have the mobility to walk or ride a bicycle. So we understand, we agree, and we're going to try to help get that infrastructure all coordinated in place over time.
Good luck.
Thank you. Ashley, did you want to go next?
Yeah, just really quick. I don't know if you mentioned this before. One thing I was wondering about was just the general timeline. I know it's a ways out, but like when you think construction might actually start. And then the other thing I was wondering about is any type of maybe a cafe or coffee shop. Is there going to be any food and drinks on site for people?
We're smiling because we had a conversation about cafe and coffee shop this morning and all of the kind of appearances. Do you have a preference? Oops, you're on mute. Go ahead.
No, I don't have a preference. I just think that, I mean, yeah, people are going to be there hanging out, doing meetings, and it would be, helpful for them, and then also just be helpful for whatever coffee cafe business was able to start up there too.
Okay, great. Duly noted. And then Greg, I saw you unmute. Do you want to talk schedule a little bit?
Yeah, I thought I would. From the initial commencement of construction work, which would be site improvement work and really doing the street improvements on extension of Britta and Jameson and Roble, would commence at the end of next year. So the fourth quarter of 2022. And then the actual building and all of the finish improvements within the project would start about 5-6 months later in 2023. And ultimately with a completion and opening of the new library in late third quarter, so like August, September of 2024.
We do have a new question in the chat box, and then after that, I'd like to see if Joan, Erica, or Councillor Perkins have anything that they want to add.
Okay.
The question in the chat box says Powell Development recently ran into an issue with irrigation canals. Is there any irrigation facility on or near this parcel?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know, Scott or Greg.
There is some on the adjacent property with our adjacent property owner there. And, but that's irrigation for a small portion of their land. But within our property, there's nothing existing that has shown up on any of our surveys and due diligence through the process of evaluating the property.
Yeah, we won't be needing any of those irrigation easements or be affected by them, and we'll be using domestic water from new infrastructure from the city.
I wanted to add one quick thing around the transportation, and thank you so much, Thomas and Joette and Ashley, for asking great questions around that, because that is one of our biggest focuses right now, is making sure that bikes and walkers have access, but also the public transportation. Todd and Greg have been working with CET, and I know that CET, Rachel is on this call, but CET seems really excited to have a direct bus service to the library. And they've even mentioned that it would start maybe every 20 minutes or so once everything is settled. And we'd also provide space for CET to transfer buses in the northern part possibly of our land. So we're hoping to forge a really strong, good partnership with CET. And I know you'll be talking to them later tonight, but I just wanted to put that in because maybe Rachel, if she knows more, could share a little bit.
Yeah, so I was actually excited that I saw that, you were going to be talking about this new library on the same meeting that I was going to be talking about our new route in the Northeast. But yeah, so we've been working to start developing our second mobility hub, which is kind of a new system that we are moving towards. So right now, all of our routes are kind of on a spoken hub with our main Hawthorne station, and we are looking to kind of disperse that so that there are various points throughout the city now that it's kind of grown so much since the transportation network was first started. So the mobility hubs will be kind of popping up throughout the city, and this is going to be our second one, and it'll have, integration of bicycling, e-scooters, just once those come to Bend, but we'll have the ability to transfer to various modes of transportation, including the bus, all from this mobility hub. So we are very excited to be partnering with the library and enhancing access so that, everyone who might have their transportation barriers or whatnot can make it over to the library without any trouble.
Thank you, Rachel. That's great.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's keep moving here and see. I might put a question in the chat box, but I want to hear from see if these other folks have anything to say. Joan, do you have anything that you want to say to the library folks? Okay, no answer from Joan. I don't know if that's our ex-treasurer, Joan Miller, or if it's a different Joan. Erica, how about you?
No, I'm really just enjoying hearing about it, multitasking, making my dinner for my family at the same time. Thank you all for being here.
Okay, well, thank you for coming. How about Counselor Perkins? Do you have any questions, comments?
No, I'm just here listening and taking notes. I was able to meet with the library folks, oh gosh, probably maybe 2 or 3 months ago. And so heard all about the plans and been just sort of listening to all of your comments and the things that you're bringing up.
Okay, so I think we've heard from everybody. I'll put my last question up then. Have you surveyed for bats? And I bring that up because I kind of put the Costco folks, the Powell Development, to the task the other day. They want to level out their ground that has some areas of special interest on them that are lava, rock, not cliffs, but sometimes we call them lava blisters around here. And we have another development out on the east side of town called the Stevens Road Tract, and they found bats of a sensitive nature out there. I don't think they're threatened or endangered. I think they're on a state list, but I could be mixed up about that. So I'm just going to ask you about that. Have you done any bat surveys?
I can take that. My hobby is exploring the high deserts, all I do. And we don't have any rock outcrops that are highly fractured with the kind of fissures or rock faces that bats typically like. So there's no intention at this point to look for them. We've been all over the site many times, and there's a small to medium-sized juniper. So it doesn't look like a heavy bat habitat type site to us at this time.
Oh yeah, Joette, you put a question in the chat about how do we design for future users? And I think that's a great question. With a building like this, we expect it to have a lifetime of 100 years. And the unfortunate thing is none of us have a crystal ball. So what we try to do is really think about how spaces can be as flexible as possible. And that word means a whole bunch of stuff. But as architects, what we, especially when it comes to libraries, what that means is we try to design the building with very simple rectangular shapes that have as few obstructions as possible. So we try to space the columns as far apart, as wide apart, so that what we're creating is a really big flexible container for whatever the library wants to do over time. The other thing we do is we really think about how spaces can do more than one thing. So rather than making them as specific as possible, we try to say, well, could this space do 1, 2, or 3 things really well? So you don't have spaces sitting empty. And then we also hope that we're putting in building systems that can change over time. Like, for instance, we were talking yesterday with our IT folks about, well, could these study rooms have really the capability to do any number of things if people check out a different set of equipment and take it to that room? So I think there's a few techniques like that that we try. And frankly, some things work out really great and we're amazed. And some things, because of things we can't predict, we need to adjust and be nimble as the building goes forward. So it's an art form, I guess. And then I think the notion of a business section, I don't know if you mean like a collection, a materials collection, but Chantal has really been an advocate for a co-working space for a lot of the remote workers or people who run their own businesses that maybe can't, don't lease office space. And so really thinking about a whole kind of, ensemble of rooms that act together, open co-working. Maybe there's rooms to take Zoom calls. Maybe there's rooms to meet with someone and have a consultation or an interview. So thinking about what are the things that a business community would use. So maybe I'll lob it back to you, Joette, and see if that's on the mark with what you were asking about with regard to a business section. And if you need to put it in the chat, Joette, that's okay too, if your audio isn't working.
Yeah, and that was some of the information that we would like to solicit from the different users of the library with those videos that we posted to the DPL website. And then there's an interface where you can submit kind of how you might want to use these different libraries. But we have heard from different groups that, you know, some people come down to Bend and have several meetings, but in the interim between their two meetings, they need a place to kind of go work and maybe have that Zoom call. And I think we're trying to provide those types of spaces for people.
So Joette, just real quickly, so my family home base is in Chicago. Which branch did you work for? Or what neighborhood did you live in? That's exciting. We have a fellow librarian in the mix.
And while we're waiting for that, I would say the kind of how we serve businesses, it changes over time, but it's actually a very vibrant part of what we do right now, especially working with small businesses. So that's something that I foresee continuing. It may change in the way we do it, but it's something that we will continue.
Yeah, thank you.
And for things as simple as like a copier and a scanner for people needing that for their businesses. So it's about the spaces, it's about the collection, and then equipment.
Yeah. Any other good feedback? And definitely want to remind everyone to check out that web link that Todd sent. Please fill out the survey, because that is a direct conduit back to the design team, and definitely pass the word around and have other people also fill out the survey. We're only as good as the feedback we get, and so we want as much as possible, and it's the best time to insert those ideas into the thinking. Todd, do you have any wise words to add as we wrap?
No, I just want to thank you all for taking the time to meet with us. This is an incredibly important project for us, and our goal is to make it reflect our community. So that's why we're really making sure we get out and talk to as many people as we can, and are encouraging people to go to our site because we're designing something for our community for the next 100 years, and we want to make sure everybody's involved in it. So thank you.
I had one last question. This is Kathy again, and that was, are you going to put out artwork outside? And do you know what kind of artwork you're looking at? Are you going to solicit artists to apply, or design something? And
yeah, we know there is an art process, right, Scott? I mean, the specifics, but I think, yes, we're very excited about integrating art into the project, so it feels very holistic and really kind of a seamless part of the whole experience. And we have not had any conversations yet about where it should go or what it should look like. And Scott, I don't know if you wanted to add anything. No, okay.
We did just have one first meeting with some local arts leaders to begin this discussion, and we'll have many more to come. And we also today just met with the Latinx community, and they were wonderful, and they really encouraged us to also include art from different regions, right, that may resonate with all the populations in Central Oregon. So we were definitely focused on Oregon and Northwest artists, but then they also mentioned that, and that made us think something new today. So that's why your input is so important and integral in what the future is going to look like.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, it sounds like we've pretty much wound down this part of the conversation. You've asked all the questions you want, I take at this point, Chantal, Todd, the rest of the group. Okay.
Yes.
So I want to say thank you for taking the time to come to our meeting and listen to us. We'll be in touch as things move along. Our email again is boydacres@gmail.com, where there's 2 or 3 of us that monitor that inbox. So it doesn't necessarily have to be addressed to a particular person. And we'll try to get back to you if there's anything in specific you want to know from us.
Okay.
And I guess we'll take the time now to go on to our pumpkin contest carving winners.
Perfect.
Well,
I
Great.
got all
Thank you
those-
for, thank you for
Yeah.
having us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, I think that might be my cue. So we did have a pumpkin carving contest over the past few weeks, and we got 8 entries altogether. So we did choose the winners. It's going to be Mari, who is 5 years old, and then we also have Rachel Henderson for the adult prize. So those are going to be our 2 winners, and we're going to get the prizes over to them this week. I believe the adult prize is going to be a gift certificate for coffee, and then the child's prize, we're actually going to double check with the parents, I think, and see if they'd rather have either time at trampoline zone or a different prize if that's not something they're interested in. But we appreciate all you guys' entries, and hopefully we'll do it again next year and get even more.
We did have the Deschutes Public Library also sponsored a pumpkin carving contest this year. So we might have had more winners if those 2 hadn't been going on at the same time, or we might have had more entries, I should say. And also, we can't use our BONA funds for gift certificates. That's a rule of the city. We can use it for other things. If we say we're going to buy them a pound of coffee and give them a pound of coffee, but we can't give them a gift certificate. So we'll work on those details.
Yeah, that's what I did last year. I'll just buy the coffee. There's in it from a local, Stump is a local roaster.
Okay.
And I can buy it at Wild Roots, which is a local business.
Okay. That's great, Joette. I'm glad I just wanted to remind everybody, we got to stay within the rules if we're going to spend our official BONA money.
You're right.
Yeah, Joanne had mentioned that before too. Yeah.
Okay. So next we're going to go to Rachel from CET.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me back. Rachel Zachem. I'm the transit planning specialist for Cascades East Transit. Can you let me share my screen?
I can. I think I know how to do that. I go to your profile, your picture, go to the white dots and say, make a co-host, make the host. There you go. And I say, yes, I think that should be you now.
Screen, there we go. So can you guys see this? Yeah, all right.
Yes, I can see that.
So just going over what I'll be discussing, I'm going to provide a just brief overview of our existing system for those of you that aren't familiar with it, and talk about the new Northeast route that we've been designing. That's Route 8. We'll talk about the stop locations and all the ADA considerations that we take into account. And then we definitely want to get questions and comments from everyone. So the bottom just kind of shows you how we've been progressing. We started working on these routes in 2019. Last year, we came and presented to you guys and some of the other neighborhood associations that are along our 2 new routes, because there's also one going in the southeast. And so we're just kind of reaching back out. We had a survey at that time about the routes and people's opinions on where they were going and where they would need to get to and all of that stuff. So just brief overview, that's a map of our system right now. And up here in the Northeast is where we are trying to fill in the gap for transit, and also down here in the Southeast. So right now our routes are all 30 or 45-minute frequencies. That will be getting cut some for our 4 most prominent routes when we have enough drivers and we are able to implement our increased frequency project that has kind of been put on hold due to our driver issues. Right now we're fareless. We have been since March of 2020. We are currently, unfortunately, operating on our Saturday schedules due to the driver shortage. We just don't have enough drivers to cover the routes, and that's a problem all across the country. And we're still requiring face coverings. So this is Route 8. It probably looks familiar if you were on the last time I spoke with you guys. So essentially, it's providing a connection to our current network. These stops down here in the south connect to routes 5 and 6. So those are existing stops. There's stops on both sides of the streets, and depending on if you are trying to get back to the station, you would hop on Route 6 there, or if you were trying to get over to the east side, which from our surveys is where most people in the Northeast said they would be trying to go, you would hop on Route 5 and it would take you straight over to that Costco area and everything on the east side. Up here, this stop also hooks up with our Route 4 that takes you on the northern part of 3rd Street and also up to the mall and some other areas in the north. And also Route 24 hooks up there a few times. So that's our route that connects to Redmond. So people from the Northeast area could just come up here and get off at this stop to get to Redmond. This will be a 30-minute frequency. There's a lot of access to important destinations, a bunch of schools in here. One of the schools is Trinity Lutheran, who currently does not have any form of busing. All of their students have to be brought in by parents. So it would be really beneficial to get them on the network and let students have a way other than their parents to get them to and from school. It's also going to connect to the Pine Nursery Park and also the Canal Road Park off Butler Market. And then a big thing is that this is going to have two stops that'll be across from the new Petrosa development. So those are kind of the big stops. So going back to when we were originally reaching out to you guys and asking your opinions on the routes, there was another option that we were looking at, and that was one that would return to Hawthorne Station as all of our other Ben fixed routes currently do. And one of the reasons that we just ended up going with this other route is because this whole section over here in red would not have been able to be served if we had gone back to Hawthorne. And so, you know, all of this area over here doesn't have any access to transportation whatsoever. Whereas there are other routes around this other connection that we would use to get to Hawthorne that people in the area could use to take public transportation. So like I said, this just provides a quick direct connection to the east side, which is where many people said they would need to go. Doesn't, you know, so you don't have to go all the way back to the center of the city at Hawthorne Station just to get out there. You would just hop on the bus and pretty much have a few minutes ride there. One of the big things with this is that, as I was talking about with the library, they're going to be one of our mobility hubs. And we are really working to move away from the hub and spoke design. It just, it doesn't fit with the city as it's grown so much anymore. Having to bring all of our buses back into Hawthorne, creates a lot of restraints on how the frequencies that we can run, but it also creates a lot of traffic and congestion in the area around Hawthorne Station, which has been brought up as an issue by the neighbors around Hawthorne Station. So when we had our statewide transportation improvement fund committee, it's an ongoing committee this route is funded through a project from the statewide transportation improvement fund. The committee thought it was really important that we start moving away from the hub and spoke in trying to move more towards mobility hubs that connect routes throughout the city. So really, this is our first step in moving away from having all of our routes converge at one location and kind of having this as a more dispersed network where you can hop on one route and get to another one without having to go back to Hawthorne Station. So there's a chat. So the shelter by Ponderosa Elementary, if you give me 1 second, I'm going to pull up another window. Okay. So this picture, and let me zoom in a little. This picture down here can kind of show you. So this is the school over here. And you see there's a kind of a pathway that leads students to the sidewalk. So we are going to have our bus pad and our shelter to the north between the sidewalk and the road. I'll go over this quickly with you guys. Just all of our bus stops are designed up to ProAg standards. That's the public right-of-way accessibility guidelines. They're up to the ODOT standards, the City of Bend sidewalk standards. We have made our loading and unloading zones 10 by 5 feet based on the maximum reach of the buses that we will be having their ramps to make sure that it's a comfortable way for people to exit if they need to use the platform. The shelter pads are 8 by 5. Slope for any stop has to be less than 2%. And if it's not, we do things to amend that, and I'll get to that too. There's braille signage at all of our stops. And yeah, as I said, well, we reconstruct them. So we went through all of our stops in the past few months with a bus to test it out with our engineering firm and also some city members from their engineering. So we took out our large bus that is larger than what we will actually have on these routes, just to make sure that if we did need to use one in case of a bus breaking down, that we would still be able to use them. So that other document I pulled up, those were the initial drawings, and they are on their way to becoming the 60% design plans. And we are supposed to have those in early December. And then by late December, because it should go a lot quicker from the 60 to 90% drawings, we should have the 90%. So just some examples of stops and various things that happen. So this is our Boyd Acres at Ross Road. This is a location where all of the panels in the sidewalk meet ADA standards, so we don't need to do anything. And these curb ramps here are all ADA compliant. Here at our stop that's at Cooley and 18th Street, we have some sidewalk panels that were not ADA compliant. So we will be constructing transition panels that will bring this into ADA compliance. And essentially that just means that it was over a 2% grade. Petrosa developed. So you can find out any information about this route and the other one in the southeast at our website, cascadeseastransit.com/Bend routes 8 and 9. We'll be doing website postings and also boosts on social media, flyers, and radio ads to get the awareness out about this route. Also, as you guys are part of this, we are doing our outreach to the neighborhoods and businesses along the routes. And there'll be opportunities for the City of Bend and other partners to share our project updates via the links and resources that we share ourselves. It is a 30-minute route. See, did I skip one or is that it? No, that was it. Okay, so at the discussion part, which is, probably the most important part, really just want to know if you think this route would help you reach the destinations that you go to. And, would you be likely to utilize this service? Do you think other people would be likely to utilize this service? Anyone have any feedback?
This is Kathy.
Go ahead, Kathy. I was gonna say, I definitely think that I would utilize the route, especially from going to towards the downtown area back towards Boyd Acres. How late are the buses going to be running? Are you guys gonna make them later, or what are the hours you're planning on?
So for right now, because we're on Saturday service hours, we run from 8 to 5. But on normal times, when we have enough drivers, we run from 6 to 7 is our last run. So this bus will fit in with whatever fixed route is doing. So if we're back to our normal schedules, we'll start at 6 a.m. and go until 7 p.m. This route may function slightly different and be able to do another run because it does not go back to Hawthorne Station. We are looking at expanding service hours, but that's not something that that's in exactly the works for the near future.
So this is Kathy Roach. I'm the chair, and in all honesty, I must live in the wrong neighborhood because I don't use any of those stores out there at Cascade Village. Or if I do, I mean, there's one or two that I do, and then I have to take my car because I have big things that I'm bringing home. I'm not going to lug them around on a bus. So I probably would not take that route. Joette says this seems a very practical route serving the schools and parks. I agree. I mean, I think the school kids can maybe use it, especially if it's just 30 minutes around. I appreciate that you included the Forest Service or a stop over there near their office, because they're supposed to encourage these kind of things too.
Yeah, and doing ride-alongs, when we were first looking at planning a route out there, or even for other things, I often came across Forest Service workers that complained that we didn't have a stop closer to them because they essentially have to get off at those stops that I pointed out that are on 5 and 6, and then bike over to work. And that was definitely one of the reasons we looked at putting one in there, is because we had a lot of specific requests from them.
Yeah, and I think they can get reimbursed for using a bus. At least there have been those kind of programs in the past. So maybe that will be really good for you and them.
Definitely.
Rachel, do you know on some of the stops, if they're on, say, one side of 18th or whatever, will there be an easy way, or will crosswalks be put in so people can get to that side, or will the stops be on both sides going, whatever, it's north, south, east, west?
So stops will only be on one side because this is just going to be operating in a clockwise travel path. But we've done our best to locate most of the stops near intersections so that there are already crosswalks in place. There are a few places where there are not crosswalks yet that we have started discussing with the city. The issue is that, putting in sidewalks or putting in crosswalks is not necessarily something that CET has the power to do. It's their city elements. So we can encourage them, and we have been, and they've been very involved with us. So for example, that stop that's going to be over by Trinity Lutheran, we've kind of been planning it with them right there specifically because they are supposed to be putting in a crosswalk right there, and a island also in the middle. So we are, doing our best to make sure that these will be accessible to both sides of a street, even if, they're just on the one side.
I think the other thing is always that first mile, last mile. I think for a lot of folks, it depends just how far they live away from one of those stops. If you're a block away, it's great. If I'm 2, 3, 4, 5, or if it's difficult getting, I realize that you can't have a bus on every street, but it helps to look at some of those issues of getting from a certain apartment complex or something else to some of those stops. And I know that's not just but I'm hoping that Councilor Perkins and others, take a look at this and say, we've got to get together and make sure that this is safe for everybody, to get to. We've had a lot of issues that we've had to do about safe streets and things. And I think this would be part of that, helping people, to get around and get across streets easily, so that, right now in a lot of places in Boyd Acres, it's kind of dangerous because there are no sidewalks and things. So hopefully you guys in this will stir some interest.
I agree completely. And it's kind of been a minor side crusade of mine, is enhancing the pedestrian networks here. It's a really major issue in pretty much most cities in America is that we have kind of these sidewalks to nowhere, you know, they just all of a sudden end and you're in the middle of a street or something, or it picks up in another block. Well, with anybody, for anybody with mobility issues, that's a major barrier to utilizing the transportation system. So we've made sure that all of these stops are on a sidewalk network. There's a few areas where, due to the makeup of the city and the gaps that exist, especially on Butler Market, there's a lot of gaps. So there's sidewalk, and then you'll have 2 blocks that doesn't have it, or it has it on one side and not the other. So there's a few places where we maybe don't have sidewalk connectivity on both sides of the stop, but there's at least, it is connected to a network to get you somewhere. And I'd say the spacing for these stops from each other is about 1/4 mile. So tried to make it so people didn't have too far to walk. Obviously, there's going to be people that aren't within the walk shed of our route, but oh, and I should have that image pulled up, but it's actually pretty inclusive of this whole area. A 1/4 mile walking shed around all of the stops covered a fair amount of the population, and also employers. But I 100% agree with you. I feel that, you know, really having safe pedestrian and bicycling networks and infrastructure is key to having people actually utilize public transportation.
Yep.
Do you guys have any ideas for how we can encourage people to use this route and get the word out? You know, it's gonna, one of the hardest things for us is going to be attempting to just let people know that this service exists. So if you guys have anything that you think, anything we could do as far as reaching out to certain people, places, or organizations, please let me know. I'd love for you guys to all spread the words throughout your community. I can send you some stuff over. I don't know if you'd be able to share it on your page. I don't know if you guys have a Facebook page.
Yeah, this is Kathy. We have a Facebook page. We have a Nextdoor page.
Oh, great.
And we have a web page for the Boyd Acres neighborhood. We can put it on all 3 when it's,
wonderful.
When it's the appropriate time. Joette suggested that you have an inaugural tour or ride that, you know, sort of a party bus for the first ride around the system or something. Councilor Perkins agreed that sidewalks to nowhere are, I think this is what her comment was about, or doesn't do much good. And there's one last question in the chat that says, will this bus go back to Hawthorne at the end of the day?
So this bus will not be going back to Hawthorne at all. You'll need to get off at a stop and either get on Route 6. Will be, depending on where you're coming from, you'll either get on Route 6 to go back to Hawthorne, or Route 4. And those will be a quick trip back to Hawthorne from either of those stops, because they'll be making their way to return to Hawthorne by then.
Okay, and Erica commented that this would really, she used to have to walk about 25 minutes to get to the nearest bus station. So this will greatly help her efforts to try to take the bus more. So there's something positive for you. And excuse me. Yeah, just let us know what you need.
Yeah,
to help do some publicity about this. And I want to ask Councilor Perkins if she has anything else to say before we sort of wrap this up.
Oh, sorry, hold on. No, I've just been listening. This sounds like a really great, new form of access for, this new route. So I'm really excited about it, and please let me know how I can help promote in any way.
Great. Yeah, I'm sure we will be getting material out probably early into 2022. We are intending on starting these routes in the summer of next year. It very much depends on if we have drivers or not. Unfortunately, we had quite a few projects that were supposed to start this fall that were new services. or enhanced service, such as our increasing our frequency on 4 of our routes. And we don't even have drivers to do our normal service. So any additions are not possible right now. So assuming that by next summer, the job issues have somewhat decreased and we're able to have the drivers, we will be starting these routes in the summer of next year. So I foresee in early 2022 sending you some, promotional information about the routes and the stops for you to share.
Okay, any other last comments?
Oh,
Chloe?
also, I really like that idea of doing an inaugural bus ride, and I definitely think that we will be doing something along those lines.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. And thank you so much for coming to our meeting tonight to talk to us. And we will be posting this video, the Zoom recording, on our webpage, linked onto our webpage, so that people who weren't able to make it to this meeting will be able to see it if they want to.
Wonderful. And I can also send you the slideshow.
Okay, that would be good.
Great. Well, thanks so much for having me again and for your guys' feedback.
Yes, well, thanks so much for joining us.
All right, have a good night.
Okay. I'm going to close this down now. Going once, going twice. Okay, bye.